Ambassador, you have been the Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh in the past. Have you ever witnessed such a situation outside the Indian High Commission where you see radical Islamists trying to storm the Indian High Commission building?
Absolutely not. Even at the time when I was High Commissioner to Bangladesh, there was a government of government led by Prime Minister Khaleda Zia with the Jamaat-e-Islami as a member, but never at that time, even though it was not by any means a friendly government, but never at that time was anything like this ever allowed to happen. And there was absolutely a normal situation, even though we had disagreements on so many points. But this situation is unprecedented. It is a complete violation of the Vienna Convention on the rights of diplomats stationed in another country, and it is the duty of the government of the interim regime in Bangladesh to protect the lives and the security and the property of the Indian government and the Indian High Commission and all its associates. But this is a frenzied mob. They're being whipped up to do this. And this is all linked to the forthcoming elections in Bangladesh. And it is amazing that the Yunus regime is doing nothing to stop them, not even making the slightest effort. Even just today morning, the Bangladesh High Commissioner was called in by the government of India, and it was explained to him and conveyed to him in no uncertain terms that this threat, because the threat was always there of this kind of a situation, a mob being led, that this should be stopped and nothing should happen like this. But it has fallen on deaf ears. And in fact, 3 days ago, our High Commissioner in Dhaka was called in to the Bangladesh Foreign Office on the grounds that a person of the National Citizens Party who had been shot at during an election campaign, that India had something to do with it. So this vilification of India, this anti-Indianism that is being whipped up by the Yunus regime is part of their election preparations, because what has happened is that I think the Yunus regime has been deeply disappointed that the support for Awami League, the support for Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's party is still there. The vote bank has not gone anywhere, despite the fact that she has now had to leave Dhaka and come to India, despite the fact of this fake kind of a trial that was done against her and the judgment passed by a court that was not authorized to try her, and in a manner that certainly did not protect the rights of any Bangladesh citizen. The support for her remains, and the support for Sheikh Hasina is being linked with anti-Indianism. So both are being whipped up in a way that will divert the minds of the people of Bangladesh and take them away from any kind of support. So this is completely unacceptable. It is completely unacceptable. This has been happening for a long time, but for it to come to this pass, that the people of Bangladesh are now, or certain percentage of the people of Bangladesh, who are all members of Jamaat-e-Islami, who are members of the Islamist groups, who are members of the Islami Chhatra Shibir, the student wing of the Jamaat-e-Islami, all their focus is being put on anti-Indianism, so that in the hope that they will get support. But we know that even in the polls conducted in Bangladesh, the support for Awami League, 70% of the people of Bangladesh want Awami League to participate in the elections. It doesn't mean that they will necessarily vote for the Awami League, but they want participation. They want a democratic election. They want free and fair and inclusive and credible elections. This is what India has been saying all along, and this is what the government of India conveyed to the Bangladesh High Commissioner today, that the elections must be free, fair, inclusive and credible. And the relationship we see is between the people of India and the people of Bangladesh. India will never support any anti-Bangladesh activity from Indian soil, and India will never participate in any such activity. To make such accusations is completely wrong and incorrect. So I think that India has stated its position very clearly. I'm very glad the High Commissioner was called in to convey this unequivocal message, but it does not seem to have had any impact, because the situation there is deteriorating by the minute. I think it's a very serious threat, not only to the Indian personnel living there, but to this large border we have of 4,000 kilometers. The security and stability of that border is also threatened. I'm sure the Indian government is considering what additional action should be taken now.
That's right, Ambassador. On one hand, Indian missions are being targeted, and on the other hand, minorities are not safe. Suhas Chakma, there's a pattern that's currently there in Bangladesh. Do you think this is a pattern that reflects the pre-1971 East Pakistan persecution? Because that's exactly what is happening in Dhaka.
Well, absolutely clear. The minorities in the country have been facing tremendous amount of violence. They cannot even assemble. I mean, if you assemble in Chittagong, as we have seen in the case of Chinmay Prabhu, that he has been put in jail, and he has been in jail since 24th November under trumped up charges last year. And his only fault was to organize a rally of the Hindu minorities at Lal Ligi Maidan. And in the Chittagong hill tracts of Bangladesh, each time you organize a rally of just peaceful protest seeking justice for the rape victims, you are shot dead by the Bangladesh security forces. I think what we have to keep in mind is that this is something which was there from the beginning. I do not know how the government of India had reacted. I think the moment the government of India, this interim government came to power, we have to realize that certain individuals who were already convicted as terrorists, they were released by the government of Bangladesh. So even if you look at it, whether it's Jasimuddin Rabbani, I mean, known Al Qaeda leader, Lutfuruzzaman Babar, who was convicted for carrying these 10 trucks of weapons, which are meant to come to India. So you could see the policy of this interim government, which are completely against India. And if you look the reports and follow up the reports, in fact, 2 days back, there was a report in a newspaper saying that the Bangladesh government and the intelligence agencies of Bangladesh, they have invited Paresh Barua to be in Dhaka. And as per the sources, he is reportedly in Dhaka at this point of time. And these are activities which the government of India should have taken note of very seriously, because you are reopening the entire insurgency which was there in the in the beginning of this millennium. So the government of Bangladesh is continuing these policies. I think we have to be very clear that there is security risk. And whatever Hasnat Abdullah had said, that will shelter the insurgents from northeast India, they were already present there in Dhaka. So he was privy to certain information, being a young kid, and he was carried away. So he spoke the truth. So it wasn't a threat; it was already being implemented. So I think beyond summoning of the Bangladesh High Commissioner, I think it's essential for us to recognize this fact that this government, the interim government of Bangladesh, not only wants to rewrite the history, they want to destroy whatever relationship they have with the, the government of India.
And Professor Swaran Singh, these threats have always existed after Yunus government, replaced Hasina's regime. But do you think, with the kind of anti-India rhetoric that's coming to the fore in the recent past and also just yesterday, do you think that Bangladesh is slowly drifting into Pakistan's orbit?
I think two things are very clear here. One, that Pakistan is using this as an opportunity from day one. And the kind of high-level visits and the kind of decisions of visa on arrival and direct flights and so on, and training of Bangladesh forces, etc., have gone on. It's an opportune time for Pakistan to cultivate Bangladesh. Bangladesh that is already willing, as is being said, to rewrite its own history and almost demolish India's role and role of its own freedom fighters in the liberation of Bangladesh. That's true. So therefore, it seems that the chief advisor, Dr. Yunus, is perhaps looking for his legitimacy two ways. One, by pandering to the radical elements on the ground, and then, of course, also seeking legitimacy in Beijing and Islamabad in that sense.